quorum, don't we?
Quorum.
All right, well, it's 5:31, so let's go ahead and get started. I assume that we are already recording, so I will call the meeting to order and ask Sandra to record the attendance. Item 2 on the agenda is approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. If you don't have it in front of you, you should be able to pull it up on your screen. Please take a look, and I'd appreciate if someone would make a motion to approve that agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Grace made a motion and Rick seconded. Trying to see it. Let's give Gary a second here. Oh,
I'm all right.
that's okay. The computer guy.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I understand. I'm same. All in favor of approving the agenda? Aye. Opposed? All right. Article 3, approval of the minutes of the June 15, 2021 meeting. It's been a minute since we've had that meeting, so take a moment to look back through those minutes if you haven't yet done so. And when you're finished, I'd appreciate it if someone could make a motion to approve those minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, thank you for that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to Article 4. This is the point in the meeting where we acknowledge visitors and those wishing to speak regarding items on the agenda or non-agenda items. Excuse me, we're limiting comments to 5 minutes per speaker. I know that we have some folks in person here, and we may also have people on Zoom. So let's perhaps start with people who are here in the room to see if anyone has any comments they would like to make at this time. Come on up to the podium. We'll want you to speak into the microphone because in case anybody's watching us, they'll be able to hear you a little bit better.
Okay,
Thank you. Welcome.
thank you. I'm Marlene Wackerlin. I've lived in Cascade since 1983. First, I'd like to thank the township for the pathways that have been installed. They are a great system and they've served our community in a number of really positive ways. I'm going to put these on so I can read this. I am an avid cyclist and I spend a lot of time on our pathways. They allow me to get to the streets where I like to take my long rides. The paths, however, as you probably know, are really in great need of repair. Patching alone doesn't do it. Cracks are so big that grass grows in between the cracks. There are potholes in several places. I know where they're at, so I know how to avoid them, but an unsuspecting person hits that pothole, even a walker, and you're down. The pathways are really so bad right now that they're forcing us bikers onto the road. And I don't know if you're aware of how many bikers you see on Cascade Road right now. It's an awful place to ride. When I come back from rides now, it's not my legs that might be a little tired, it's my arms, and it's from the constant jarring. So please, before you install any more new pathways, I would really encourage you to take care of what we already have. And maybe that's in the works, I don't know, but it would be something that I think people would really be interested in knowing about. I think people are going to get hurt, and maybe they already have been, if we don't take care of it. And if you doubt what I'm talking about, why don't you can come for a ride with me sometime and find out for yourself. I live in Cascade Woods, as I said, and the only way to get to the Cascade Road bike path is across the Thornapple River walkway. I don't think that was ever meant to be a bike path. However, that's the only way to get there. It's very narrow and it's really disconcerting to have cars coming at you at 50 miles an hour or more. And one slip off those walkways and you're into the road. With 2 ice cream shops close by, I don't know if you've noticed, especially with COVID, there have been a ton of kids on that walkway. Families using it, moms with strollers, and again, one slip. And I have seen kids fall. I've seen people fall before the pathway. I've seen them fall on the bike, on the pathway. I think this group needs to find a major improvement to that bridge. You're probably aware a month or so ago, a car actually hit the abutment, went down into the river. You know, it was a miracle. There was nobody there. I don't know what time it happened, but nobody got hurt except maybe the person in the car. The bridge and the road, I feel at that point are both too narrow. We have so many turns going in and out, and coming across. It's become a very dangerous spot. The speed limit's too high. Maybe that would help. But I believe that this is a project, or those are projects that should probably be at the top of your list. So thank you for listening to me.
Thanks. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you. And just while we're here, since you're the only one, this is, can you give your email to Sandra?
Sure.
And then, because really this group, the Downtown Development Authority, doesn't really have the authority for it. This is more of a Board of Trustees issue. It's outside of our district, but you're not alone. We've heard a lot of that. They did pass the schedule for repairs, but, and we will get you that, but Sandra, please get her contact information and we'll pass it along to the whole board so that so you don't have to show up to 2 meetings, but you can still get your point across.
You may though want to stick around. We've added to our agenda for tonight's meeting and a kind of a conversation about the complete streets plan, which is, you know, several years old, but some of the things that you're discussing, in fact, maybe all the things you're discussing are folded within that. They're all different projects and ideas.
So I actually suggested that Marlene come tonight because we were having the
Got it.
discussion around complete streets.
Right.
When she said to me, you know, when the paths are this bad, you force the bicyclists out into the road. I said, that's all complete streets. That's how we create, you know, bicycle lanes and all of that sort of thing. So.
Right. And I don't want to get too far off agenda, but we will be talking about some of those things. And some of them are within the purview of the DDA and some of them are not, like Grace said. I mean, the bridge, that's outside of the DDA district, so there's nothing we can do, but
We agree with you. It's an issue that hasn't been raised yet and everybody's saying the same thing.
Well, you live in the neighborhood too, so you know. Yeah.
So I don't like it because unless we go to Berber's and then you have to drop your car off.
Right.
so stick around if you want to hear some more about it. We'll be talking about it in a little bit.
Probably will go home and jump on Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay, that too,
Okay, but
that
thank you
too.
for
We'll try
listening.
not to move so quickly, so you can get on Zoom.
Okay.
Can't promise
Thank
anything.
you.
Do you have anyone on Zoom who would like to provide comments?
We do not have any virtual attendees, Madam
All right,
Chairwoman.
then. Moving along then to Article 5. I just wanted to add an item regarding the update to the rapid service schedule change. And I don't want to interrupt Sandra as she's speaking with Marlene, but when you have a moment and you'd like to give us an update about that, I'd ask you to approach the podium. Thank you.
All right, let's see. Thank you. So as you are aware, the Rapid did advise staff that it would be making some changes to its service route. And the primary change is the Cascade 28th Street route. So the bus no longer runs up Patterson to Burton, over past the YMCA, and then back around. So now it's just a straight shot up and down 28th Street. But the GO bus, because the YMCA is within 3/4 mile of the main haul line, is still served by the GO bus, or the YMCA, excuse me. So the transition to these to the route changes took place in late August, the end of August. And so we did approve, the DDA did approve that bus contract basically from October through about May-ish, if you will. And we also adjusted some service times. And so during the weekday, it is 30-minute service until 7 p.m., 60 minutes after 7 p.m. Saturday, it's 60 minutes all day. And then on Sunday, it is 60 minutes all day. Doing this also reduced the contract cost somewhat. I think we're saving about $20,000 so for that service. So the Rapid did send out notices to businesses. They put the service changes on their placards, stop locations. The township also notified businesses as well. So the changes have been made, as I mentioned, and at this point in time, staff is not aware of any issues or concerns from the businesses in the district regarding this change in service. So I believe it's going fairly smoothly. We will certainly stay on top of it to see if there's anything that pops up, but just wanted to give you that quick update. So.
Terrific. Any questions about that?
Does anyone on the DDA here, did anyone work with David Kuhn on Huhn? I think he was chair of the
Yeah.
DDA.
Yes.
I haven't-
Most, I mean, I know that Rick did, I did, did you overlap as well?
Yes, I have never met him and I haven't spoken to him in person, but he left me a voicemail and sent me an email and I'm gonna talk with him and he just wanted to give some background and I don't have that background, so I'm just curious. Guess you guys would have it too.
Background
Yes.
of concerns or
Right, I'm
background
confused.
Oh, bus.
of concerns of the bus?
And he
or
was,
just-
he was involved when we
When we
did the
instituted-
test contract,
Yes.
if memory serves, yes.
Yeah, he was there when we initially.
As were we.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I haven't talked with him. I got an email from him and. Curious.
How has the ridership been?
I have not seen an August ridership numbers. Have you seen any reports on that,
No one's
Grace?
given me.
Okay, I haven't seen those either, so I'll get those from Ben, and I can pass those along to you.
And the Rapid hasn't shared any concerns from their riders with times or anything? I know
They
the
have not.
businesses haven't, but okay.
Right, yeah, no, nothing.
That's good. Hopefully no news is good news. I know that it was their goal to push the word out about the change well enough in advance so that people could make adjustments to schedules and whatnot if they had to. So hopefully that happened.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments about the bus? All right, moving on then to Article 6, discuss the complete streets plan and projects updates. So Sandra and I were talking about putting this on the agenda for a couple of reasons. Those of you who are on social media have seen people expressing concerns such as the one that Marlene addressed here earlier about things like the speed limit and the safety issues. And so we thought that it would be timely to reintroduce this complete streets plan to start the conversation about whether we want to start thinking about moving forward with any projects, whether we want to talk about those in connection with the strategic plan conversations that are happening, and just, bring that up to the top as a priority item to discuss. So with that, I'll turn the floor over to Sandra. I know that not all of you were involved with that process because it was some years ago. So if you
Yep.
can kind of give a summary of what that was
Sure.
all about.
Yep, I'll talk slowly so Marlene can get home.
Right, sorry, Marlene.
She doesn't live far, so.
It's
Okay.
recorded. She can pull it up,
She can
so-
pull it back up, that's right. So we actually did start this in 2013, and the DDA board, as well as the planning commission, collaborated on the development of this complete streets plan. And we just put it together for the village area. So really right down here and then up to, I believe, Thorn Hills area. So it was strictly village. And so this legislation was adopted a number of years ago, and really it applies to road projects where you have the road agencies, you have engineers, you have municipality staff operate the roadway with all users in mind, all ages, all abilities, cyclists, public transportation, pedestrians, skateboarders, you name it. So they look at everything. And now with some new rules in place, back in 2013, 2014, when we did this, they're not so new anymore. But those new rules basically stated that state and local road agencies must consult with each other, as well as the local community, to get input on the planning and design of a project when it's, an MDOT road or a road commission road. And so we did work with the consultant, and we had some open houses and we had some walks through, the village area. And I know Michelle's husband was part of that group and joined us for that. So And then we did also work with the road commission. We met with them because basically, frankly, we did not want to put projects in here that the road commission would say, yeah, you can't do that. That is so, out of the purview that it's just, so we wanted to make it a realistic plan, if you will. So we did work with them on inputs for the proposed projects as well. So the plan was approved by the DDA as well as the Township Board in 2014. I do have it up on each of your computers if you want to scroll through it, while we're talking about this. I should be maybe an icon at the bottom, one of the Adobe icons on the bottom of your screen. So after the plan was approved, the DDA talked about, reviewed it, looked through some projects, and we did move forward and complete, I'd say a good number of projects that were located in the plan. And so those included that mid-block pedestrian crossing on Cascade Road down in the village, kind of by the Cascade Barber Shop there, if you will. The intersection enhancements at Cascade Road and 28th Street, as well as Cascade Road and Thornapple River Drive, and that's the stained concrete with the mast arms. So those enhancements were completed. The realignment of Old 28th Street, that approach onto Cascade Road. And then most recently, we just expanded the sidewalk system from Cascade Road north, basically, to the DDA portion went to the Cascade Hospital for Animals, and then the Township Board, the general fund, picked up the next stretch and completed it to Burton Street for that connection there. And that was just completed this summer. So really, as Jennifer said, we were talking about this, and just wanted to put this back in front of you again for your review. It has been a little while, probably since you've seen this. Wondering if there's any projects in there that the DDA is interested in pursuing. And as Marlene said, and Grace, we do hear from residents about the bridge on Cascade Road quite often. Unfortunately, while it's in the complete streets plan, it is outside of the district, so we cannot use DDA funds for that type of project. But if there's any other projects in there, we can certainly talk about those and look at those. The township has no control. I know we hear about speed limits a lot. Also, we have no control over speed limits, setting those in the township. That is done by the road commission and the state police. And what they do is they look at the 85th percentile of what the cars are traveling, and that's kind of where they set the speed limits. So unfortunately, we really don't have a say in that either. But happy to go through the plan, or if there's any projects that the board is interested in discussing and or really passing along to the township board, for them to take a look at and consider. We'd be happy to do that as well.
So I guess this is a question for Grace, because I'm a little bit out of the loop, but what's the anticipated timeline for strategic planning? Has there been any sort of a broad strokes?
So Michelle is on the committee. So we're
Okay.
meeting 2 times a month roughly.
Mhm.
We're in the early stages. So if I say something at the beginning before it's been scheduled, multiply it by 3, and that's more realistic.
Like building a house? Okay,
Mhm.
yep.
Budget wise, everything wise. But we're gonna do it right, and then we want lots of community involvement. So
So here's why,
you
I
haven't gotten
asked.
feedback yet, but hopefully at the end of the process, we can do the next. Well, what do you think, Michelle?
I think it's gonna be spring probably.
Me too, but it will be extremely thorough and
Yeah.
lots of direction from residents and businesses.
So my thought then is that we can perhaps make recommendations to either the board or to that committee, or to everybody, if the DDA feels it appropriate to update this. And it doesn't appear that we need to update the resolution. We just need
No.
to update maybe the plan. Or
Well, I don't even think we need to
or
update the
project list.
plan, if
We
you
just need
will.
to come up with
Let's-
projects?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So that's, I wasn't thinking that we'd be able to do that sitting here tonight, but I wanted to start that ball rolling, as it were, so that we
Yeah.
can identify some of the projects that we may want to throw into that strategic planning mix.
Yeah.
And
And-
even
and
just
Go ahead.
Just taking, I mean, you've given us a recap of these are the things that have been done. So what's been completed and then what's left on the list.
Right.
And then I think through the process of, the strategic plan and I mean, I think the board needs to be involved too, that the township board, so that we can start prioritizing some of those. And I think what will happen also is because we're doing a series of surveys for the strategic plan that we can start, and we're starting broad and then trying to narrow it down so that we understand what those priorities are of the residents, the business owners, and really start getting a concrete idea based on real facts and data from all of those parties on what we should really go forward with and what comes first and what comes last and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And there may be a couple of low-hanging fruits, if you will, in the plan. I don't know if it's a priority. We can wait and see. Kind of maybe two simple projects. I know we talked about the sidewalk on Thornapple River Drive, and really that was from Cascade Road up to Peace Street. If you can picture that area there, the pathway goes down Orange Street and you have to kind of, jiggy jog your way through there. When we recreated the museum gardens, we did put the sidewalk through there, and then we made a connector area where we could go in front of the museum building. There are a few right-of-way issues in there, but we've talked to the road commission about that in the past, and we would just have to shift, basically restripe the road a little bit and then pull the curb out a little bit to give us some room for a pathway or a sidewalk through there. So that could be, if that's important to people, that certainly is in the plan. The other project in here would be, if you can picture Old 28th Street, we only have sidewalks on one side of Old 28th Street, on the south side there. I don't know if sidewalks are important or a priority on the north side, but that
Over
is
the next 6 months, we'll find out. And there,
right.
the main priority is to find out from local businesses and residents really what people want and what's helpful. So it's a good time to bring it up, but
Yeah.
premature to
is.
start making.
Well, I think
Right.
it would be helpful to know what projects have been completed, what projects haven't been completed, and what projects we might want to consider, and then get that list to their committee so that they can include it in the, the messaging
Sure.
that they're sending out to find out whether people are interested in that or not. Because we may hear from the public, we don't need sidewalks on the north side, move
Right.
along.
Right, yeah, so, and, we can certainly pluck out those projects from the plan and kind of differentiate. These can be, DDA projects, if you will. These other ones, are outside of the district. So these would be whether, township board priorities. I could pass that list on to you guys as a board, and then you can decide if you want to forward any of those to the strategic plan committee, the township board.
I think
and-
that's helpful. And maybe let's tee that up for review at our next DDA meeting so that we can take a look at it and decide what we want to do with it. And I'm vaguely recalling seeing some kind of a table with like a project and a date and a list of interested parties. And I don't know if that was part of a plan or if it was just part of a report, but it might help to track and to be able to respond to people who say, well, why doesn't the DDA handle the bridge
Right.
when we can't because it's outside the district? So
Right.
I think that would help to organize the recommendations that we're going to send on, because we may make a suggestion or say, this was identified in the past, but it's not something we can do anything about. So we're just going to pass along the information, do with it what you will.
Right.
Question I have about this right now, just being new, is, because I hear a lot about the road commission, the road commission comes up all the time. What was their response to specific things within the streets plan? Because I heard a lot from like Steve Peterson, well, we don't have any control over the roads, that kind of stuff. But you were able to put the median in at Old 28th Street in Cascade. I was always curious the background, because my understanding is they shot down some of them. The more details you can get, not from
So-
what we want to do, but what the road commission's response was, would be extremely valuable.
So we worked
Right.
with them on when we put this plan together. And any of the projects that we heard from, the residents, the public, we took to the road commission, we talked it through with them. So really anything that's in this plan back in 2013, 14 anyway, was, I don't want to say approved by the road commission, but they reviewed it and they kind of gave us their blessing and said, yep, this looks like it's a, feasible project. It's something that we would endorse. And so then it went into the plan. Anything that they said, absolutely not, you're not going to put a bridge over, Cascade or whatever the case may be. Obviously, we did not put that in the plan because they should.
Roundabout.
Like those
Yeah.
parking places that are parallel on the side of the street where the trees come, a little bit of, it creates a natural that's
Separation.
fantastic. Like some of this stuff is just
Yeah.
wonderful. I just am curious
Yeah.
how much they'll let us get away with. Which
We'd
we'll
have to
find
renew the
out.
conversation,
We would,
given
yeah.
that it's been. a few years, yeah.
Unfortunately, a handful of those people are still at the road commission
That's
that we met with when we put this plan together. So hopefully the response will still be positive from them, but
But they had
certainly
said
we
no
can
maybe
start those
more.
conversations, again with
To the
them.
things that are in the
So-
plan. They are very negative on speed limit changes.
Yeah, but and this is what people don't understand. I didn't understand it. The way to enforce, everyone complains about speed. And we're, at the township level, the way to enforce, we just need more patrol. We go through the sheriff's office and when you write a few tickets and scare a few people and sit there, that's how you enforce, that's how we can do it. Stephanie Fast, Assistant Manager Fast, we have talked about that possibility of additional coverage with the sheriff's office. Why don't you, and then I've been mentioning it I've been meaning to mention it to you. Set up a time where Manager Swayze, the three of us can sit down because it's not going away. And it's one more thing on the list that hasn't gotten up to the top, but additional specific sheriff's patrol in that key area. Rick?
Talking about speed limits, and this has been a problem ever since I've been on the board, which has been quite a few years. And I understand how they come up with the speed limits, but would a petition by the township, and let's say have a couple of thousand signatures, help influence the decision to reduce the speeds? I'm just throwing that out.
I'm not an
Road
expert. I
commission.
would say probably not, but I mean, I don't know.
I don't know either.
But then here's an example, but they also have been fantastic, the road commission, and if to the extent possible, they will work with whatever municipality, and they've said we are their number one, I think their number one customer as far as communities in Kent County. So for example, if you go east on 36th Street, there's talk about adding a turn lane, widening it. So we can't necessarily go from speed, but we have influence in different projects and that kind of stuff, direct influence over that. So the more public input we get, the better.
It would seem that if there was a petition that was drawn up and a lot of people
Yes.
signed it, and it was taken to the Kent County Sheriff's Department, and there were enough people that knew about that, it was
Could we do
taken to
it? Could
the.
we sign a petition via internet?
I would think we want to give it thought. We want to be aware of, the unintended consequences that might happen. Because if the road commission comes back and says, oh, we'll look at it, but we're going to look at it using our criteria,
Uh-huh.
we could end up going in the other direction. So I think that this is something we should research to figure out both
Right.
practically and politically, what's our best angle to push, whether it be patrols, whether it be petition.
And the speed limits, they work in conjunction with the state police, not the
Oh,
sheriff
not the
department.
county sheriff.
Right.
Right.
But as Grace
The
mentioned,
road
you
commission
could,
Yeah.
road commission and the state police, yeah. But yes, you could, have the sheriff's department do some more patrols or,
But we
speed.
want the road commission to
just
be our
throwing out an idea.
friend. That's what,
Right.
Got it.
It's worth something. The more involvement from residents, I think that one of the problems is the township hasn't, the more we hear from residents on what's important, the better.
Because Cascade Road, I think, is the biggest thing from the top of the hill on Cascade
Drag
Road
strip.
to Burton,
60.
it's
It's bad.
It is, and I'm always curious when I see the flashing speed limit lights places, whether that has any effect at all. I know that it has an effect on me. When I see it, I recognize, oh, I need to adjust. Maybe we need to buy some of those. I don't know.
We did.
We did.
We did
four,
buy
don't
some
we?
of those.
Okay.
Four?
Steph, do you know how many we bought? Those speed signs for?
Or,
Yeah.
so I don't know if those sorts of things, I can't recall now whether that also is the type of thing to include in, a project proposal like we'll be putting together, but let's add that to the list of things to discuss at the next meeting as well. Anything else on complete streets? Otherwise, we'll talk a lot more about that, I have a feeling. All right. Moving on then to update regarding ongoing DDA projects. So Sandra, take it away.
Yes, so the Streetlight retrofit project. So this is something that we started pursuing 18 months ago, perhaps. And so the DDA did decide to move forward with the LED lighting conversion for these Lumac lights that are in the village and then down 28th Street. We were having some issues, maintenance issues, costs were, continued to increase for the existing lights. And we looked at, if you remember, we looked at getting either new fixtures or doing this retrofit option. And what we learned is the retrofit option was less expensive than changing the fixtures. And we had the lighting engineer, we sampled those for a while. If you remember, I think we had them out for maybe 9 to 12 months. And we would check the light levels, and the retrofit was worked wonderfully at the time. So with that, the DDA said, yep, let's take care of this and let's move forward with this project. So then COVID hit, and then there were supply chain issues. So that's kind of where we are right now. We still have some supply chain issues with these retrofit kits. So the last correspondence I received was they should be in around January. They've got issues with the Bluetooth chips and the transformers. These components are evidently hard to find. So we're still moving forward. We're just kind of on a delay right now. So hopefully come January, we'll get some positive news and we can get those installed. So I'll keep you guys updated on the status of that, but that is something that is still happening. Flower pots. So we did discuss this at a couple of our earlier meetings, maybe May and June meeting, and the DDA was looking for some additional information. If you remember, this is something that Mary from Daylily kind of brought up to us, and we worked with her a little bit. So it would involve 23 to 25 new planters, concrete bases throughout the village area, really Cascade Road corridor. And the idea was to have the plantings change with the season, so summer, fall, and winter pots. And the DDA said, let's get some more information and then let's talk about that again. So I did talk to a few communities, and everybody's all over the board, quite frankly. Some people have very low budgets. Some people have, spend $25,000 to $30,000 a year on flowers and plantings and so forth. So, most of them have some type of irrigation or drip lines installed. Either a DPW, maintains them, or maybe a parks, department maintains these. One community I talked to, Sparta, they have a handful of pots. I believe they have 40. She said it's really taken them about 10 years to get up to speed and to get them where they want to be. They have a healthy budget. They spend about $20,000 to $25,000 a year on their pots and their plantings. And, she said, is it worth it? And she said, now that we have them all, kind of together and going, and she said, yeah, it looks absolutely nice and people love it. It just takes a while sometimes, to get that going. So another community I talked to, and I put information in your packet about these, they're called earth planter, these self-watering pots. So I was intrigued by that a little bit. Obviously, we don't have irrigation lines in all the areas that we want to put the pots. And so I contacted Earth Planter, got some more information from them. And I believe I included that information in your packets, as well as some pictures of communities that have the earth planters. There are a couple near us, I say that loosely, Grayling has the earth planters, Washtenaw Community College, Western Michigan has some. So like I mentioned, there are a handful of communities with pictures. There is a little, you don't have the screens on, but really you fill them. There's a little spout on the top of the planter where you fill them. It takes about every 2 weeks, they said. You would have to fill the pot and put some fertilizer in there as well at the beginning. And Sparta has them also. They flourish and they do well, and they really like those. So I guess I was just throwing that out as another option. And maybe that would, instead of putting, irrigation down or drip lines, maybe this is a nice option in lieu of doing that. So again, not something we need to decide tonight. I just wanted to pass this information on to you. A lot of the communities don't do the seasonal, the change with the seasons. A few of them do, but then they only leave, like the fall stuff out for like 3 weeks and they put it away. Winter stuff, they said, one community I talked to said, yeah, we used to put the spruce, branches, and then they would freeze and then they would look bad and then they'd be stuck in there until, April. And so they just quit doing that. So I think there's a lot of options. I think, maybe if the DDA feels that they want to move forward with this, maybe you start small and, you can develop a program from that and see what works. Maybe you want to, do it all at once. I don't know. So.
To be discussed.
Yeah.
Did you by chance happen to get any pricing on these pots?
Yes, I
I went on
did.
the website and I saw even residential kind of smaller pots were about $200 a piece.
I
Very
did.
interesting though, on
Yeah.
how they work.
What's the size of a residential pot?
Oh,
I missed the last board meeting. Were we, is this, or do we need
40
water in the areas that were being discussed? So did we have like no water, 50%?
I don't think there's
water?
any irrigation, is there, Sandra?
There's,
Which
I
part?
thought we had one area by the gas station that had irrigation, if I'm remembering correctly.
yeah, there is a little bit down there.
Yeah.
Well, we
but
should
there's
turn
the-
it on. If there's dead in there.
Yeah, that whole area needs to be
We
redone.
talked about that in our
Mhm.
last meeting. That
Yes.
needs help.
What about in the
Yeah.
middle and that median by the barber shop, right in Sicko?
There's no irrigation in the,
What about the strip of grass where 28th Street dead ends into Cascade Road by Walgreens, that median?
there is some irrigation in those medians. So
What about the stretch by the vet office and?
we don't have irrigation up there. Now, some of those businesses may, and they may touch the, the road right of way area. But we don't have irrigation up there. Like, for example, Rick, I'm sure you've got irrigation out in that area. But we don't. The township does
So
not.
last we had discussed, and again, it's been months, so forgive me. Were we not going to go back to Daylily to ask for some more clarification about their proposal, like the specific costs about some things?
We did that.
Okay.
And we talked about that.
Did we
at
talk about it in
We
June?
did.
See,
And then, and then the board
Asia,
said,
sorry about
let's put this on hold. Let's
Okay.
talk to some other communities. There was another landscape business in the township also that was interested in, maybe partnering or participating, or
Is that that woman? I can't remember her name. and
Nikki. Yeah.
I like the idea of starting small, frankly, because we seem to be a little all over the place with this, and, whether we want to buy a pot or two and test them out, and meanwhile, contract out the re-landscape of the area that needs the most love. That may seem like a good baby step forward, and we can get some numbers.
Yeah, I do have some. Sorry, I did not put them. They updated their price list recently.
If we change landscape in the areas that doesn't have irrigation, are we
Yeah.
doing, is that the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over again and expecting different results?
Unless
And
we.
so are you better off saying, okay, let's take away the planting and put a couple of planters there that have
That-
self-watering.
that would be my thought, or, if it's got the wrong kind of plants in there. If there's some sort of low water need plant that can be put in that area, I don't know.
Yeah,
But I agree. I mean, we would need someone who, is familiar with the plants to tell us what would be the
I
best
don't have a
approach.
green thumb, so that's the extent of my comments.
But it seems like that's a way to dip a toe into these different projects so that we
Sure.
can decide whether we want to go and,
And what's interesting about these pots is that it looks like there's like I'm gonna call it a shell. Yeah.
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 Throughout the pot. So you're filling up the perimeter of the entire pot.
Right.
And then there's a wick inside that wicks the water up into the soil.
I bought those for water. I have the self-watering thing. I bought the window boxes,
Oh,
same
okay.
style,
Yeah.
and then never actually
Filled
started
them?
doing it. Yeah. We're on like the
Details.
3-year plan.
It's okay.
So-
Like Sparta, you have to it's a process.
Yeah, right. You work into
Yeah.
it.
So let's-
So cost wise, sorry, real
No,
quick.
Go ahead.
There's 3 different sizes. If you're looking at some larger pots, and then there's different styles as well, but you are anywhere from, let's say, the medium pots are around $400, give or take. And the larger pots, again, there's, 600 for this one, 400 for this, the rolled rim, classic style. So maybe a smidge more expensive than the original pots that we were looking at with Mary. But if you're not putting, the irrigation lines in, it's probably somewhat of a wash.
Right.
So,
Question. Oh, go ahead. I'm
No, I
sorry.
was just gonna say with the irrigation lines too, the other piece that you have to think about is the seasonality to where you've got in the winter, you gotta
Winterize
blow
them.
those out. So there's maintenance to those.
Mhm.
There's,
right.
freezing
Mhm.
and then having to replace where this, as they showed on their website, you just pull the drain the water out and you're done.
Right.
And then next spring or whenever you're gonna replant again, you just fill it back up with water and then once a week or once every other week, you come by with your
Yeah,
truck
with your
and you
truck
fill
and-
it up and it's off and
What's
running.
the DDA's involvement with those? I read there were 10. I don't think there's 10 out there right now, but on the corner or at the intersection, the Tuffy intersection, there's those
the big
pots that are lined up.
urns.
Yep. And because I'm asking because I know buildings and grounds, so within the township plants those every year.
Mhm.
But I was talking to buildings and grounds and they are pulled in tons of different directions.
Mhm.
So, and they said, well, we try to have our summer, I was like, do you guys design those yourself? And because they're working hard, right? But they're literally buildings and grounds.
Mhm.
And so they're in charge of flower design. And so you see other communities that have like big, huge ones. And the guy was like, the main director was like, we do the best we can. And we've got a girl that comes on for summer help. And so she's got a little bit more of an eye. He's like, but I don't design flowers. So my question is, what's the DJ's involvement? And then another person has said, a lot of communities, you contract that job out, don't have a buildings and grounds crew doing that. So I'm wondering, but I'm new here. I don't
Which we
understand
used to
what-
do. Didn't we contract
We,
it out?
yeah,
did.
we've gone
Yeah.
both ways.
Yeah.
So do we have any
so-
involvement in, does the DDA have any price contribution or involvement in what we have now?
So the DDA pays for those flowers and the plantings, the soil, all that. We do not pick the flowers. We have never had that discussion as a DDA board.
So one baby step might
so-
be not having our buildings and grounds director,
Right.
who's a
Sure.
great guy, but he's not a flower designer, not having up a notch and have someone else handle that
Mhm.
privately, subcontracting that out.
So I think we also, we talked about that area near the gas stations that is in need of some loving. And maybe thinking about that as the sort of starter project. And maybe it could be along with the urns that we already have. And say, ask for some bids and design
Mhm.
ideas from whoever wants to
Mhm.
and see what we get back and maybe try that out and, see how that goes.
I like that. And that's,
Have those 2 companies reach out to us. So if we we reach out to a few companies.
we need to
Great.
get our scope set.
Yep.
If we're gonna pick that one little area, and or some pots. Let's add to the agenda for our next meeting, nailing all that down so that we can then have them do we can send out the RFP and have them
Mhm.
give us proposals.
Sure.
I mean, we certainly don't want to micromanage, I don't want to pick out flowers. I don't want to.
No, we should have our buildings and grounds. So
Exactly.
this is an area where
So-
people
Right.
can afford it and there's good people out there who do it.
Right.
so.
I have no idea how much something like that would cost, but I'm fairly confident we will have money in our budget to do something like that, given that we're not doing some of the other projects that are more capital.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
It'd be
East Grand
nice.
Rapids
Be a
flower
good
pots
start.
are huge and beautiful.
I just want clarification. So
Yeah.
we're talking about having somebody do the design, plant the flowers, but the township would go around every other week to fill the water?
We're not quite there to the second. part
Okay.
yet.
I
Yeah.
just
right.
said-
We could see how much that would be, although I
Yeah.
think,
The current urns have irrigation.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
The existing urns have irrigation, so,
Yeah.
and I mean, if we're talking maintenance, I don't know. Do they want to do it, or do we just want to have the people who are planning this stuff do all of it? Because if something dies, they have to replace it,
Mhm.
if.
And one other comment is that the conversation started, if I recall, that we're gonna like put a flower pot or something by every lamp post or something. Well, I like these ideas of the self-watering, but I think in a lot of these areas, they're too big they take up too much of the walkway.
right.
Because I'm amazed at how many people are walking by our clinic, and they're walking 3 abreast
Yeah.
frequently.
Right.
And they would not go on the existing sidewalk. We would have to pour pads, either on the back side of the sidewalk or on the front side, depending on the
With
location.
Streetlight color, I was driving through Lake City a couple of times this summer. And I don't know how they did irrigation or in easements with property, but basically every lamp post in Lake City had a hanging flower basket with this. It's just like Heidi's, right? Heidi's. It was beautiful and it made a big impact. So I don't know if it's possible with the watering situation, but it sure looked good.
It would be a maintenance situation. I don't know that, I mean, do we have a place to hang them on our?
We
I was gonna
don't,
say, can we?
we'd have
Not
to,
really.
yeah, we'd have
Wait,
to,
but so you have to have special streetlights that do it? Isn't there a?
you'd have to
attachment?
have you'd
Need
have
an
to get the
arm.
attachment
Yeah,
or
so
the
you-
arm
but I
to.
mean, You
Mhm.
can buy arms. I'm not saying we do it.
You can, right, but we don't
Right.
have any of those right
Okay.
now. So, yep.
Okay.
But it looked beautiful and there's quite a few streetlights when you start looking at all of them in that little area. It could really make a
Mhm.
statement.
We can add it to the list of things to discuss.
We can, and a lot of communities do the hanging baskets
Mhm.
and then the, planters on the ground.
But, and that might be
Um,
something, and we may want to separate it out from the pots, but we would want to analyze who would be handling those, whether that's a
Yeah,
subcontract.
or do we do
whether
hanging
that's-
baskets instead of pots? And-
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Now, I haven't read all of this, but can you get hanging self-watering pots that you'd have to
You can,
fill them every 2 weeks?
yep.
And then are there brackets available for existing light posts? I
They do
assume
have
yes,
brackets.
but-
Yep, they do have brackets available. So, Yep.
All right. I'm going to make a note that you're going to gather all that information for us so we can come up with some finalized scope for an RFP. Any
All right.
other questions or comments in regards to either the flower pots or the streetlight retrofit? While we're still on that agenda item. No, any other ongoing DDA projects? Those two.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, just those two at this point in time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Moving on then to Article 8, any other business? The Brownfield update.
Yep, thank you.
We're giving you a workout tonight.
Getting my steps in. So the state did approve the grant, the Brownfield grant, in the amount of $455,000. And then the loan for $313,000 for the Robinson Dental Project. And so they are now moving forward with that. They just started really last week. They submitted their work plan to Eagle. Eagle approved that. And so they started with some, silt fence and some clearing and grubbing. And then this week, they were slowly starting with some hauling of the concrete in the hill and get started with removing some of the contaminated soils. So the weather has put somewhat of a damper on that. They could not work yesterday or today, but they have been doing the removal and recycling on site. So they didn't seem to think it would take them very long to get this part of the project done. So hopefully, in a few months, we'll see that wrapped up and we'll see some construction started over there. So just wanted to pass that on to you.
Any questions about that? Fun to hear progress about it, so thank you. Other items?
The
Any
only
other business?
The only other thing I wanted to mention is this Saturday, the township is having the Heritage Day festival up by the library. It starts with a 5K run in the morning. There'll be a cornhole tournament. There will be a band in the evening from 5 to 9, beer tent, kids activities during the day from 1 to 4-ish. So if you're looking for something to do, stop on by. So
Do you have food trucks coming?
So we have one food truck. Let's Taco About It will be there. We have Thornapple Brewing will be serving chili, and then we have Broden's hot dog stand.
Right.
We'll have hot dogs. Frosty Boy will be there from 1 to 4 with some treats, and then at night from 5 to 9, Jam and Bean will be on site. So yep.
Fun. Any other items to discuss under our regular agenda? Now, remember, don't run away when we conclude this meeting because we have our informational meeting, which will be brief, but we'll follow this.
No, the only thing I have to say is I just want to give compliments to the group that did the Metro Cruise warm up. I thought it went, from my attendance, I thought it went extremely well, but being on the board, any concerns, Sandra, that your group had?
We did not. It did. It was a wonderful event. It was hot, very
Yeah,
hot
very
that day, which is better than the alternative, I suppose. But we did hear from some car guys that they did not show up because it was too hot, frankly. But we still had a great turnout. The parking lot was packed down there. Everybody loves the band.
Yeah, that's great.
So no, it was a wonderful,
Nice.
wonderful event. So yeah, thank you for that.
Good work. Other items? All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I second the motion.
All right, motion has been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on then to our informational meeting. I'll call our informational meeting to order and ask Sandra to record the attendance. We don't have a line item in here to approve the agenda. Do we need to do that?
We really don't need to do that.
By statute.
This
so-
this is just that informational meeting. We really don't even need a quorum
Okay.
to hold these informational meetings. We have one tonight, which is awesome. But yeah, no, we don't need to approve the agenda or anything. So
Terrific. We'll move right on to Article 2, which is the DDA update.
yeah, so we probably went through some of this during the regular meeting. The DDA is working on the LED lighting conversion. We're looking at doing the flower pots for perhaps 2022. And at this point in time, that is really all we have in the hopper. So
Bus.
and the bus, there's always the bus. Yep. Yeah, that contract is up in May. So I have to suspect, early in 2022, we'll be having those discussions again. So.
Terrific. Article 3, reporting requirements.
So I just wanted to talk about this really quick and bring you up to speed. We are required by the state to report on the projects that we complete. And, where we are spending our money. I provide you with those reports in your packet. They're due generally in June. And so I think you had that maybe in your May packet. I can't remember. So that is a requirement. We have to, this is, Public Act 57 of 2018. These are some new requirements that the state enacted for us. We have to have the information on our website as well. In addition to, just a list of the projects that we've completed, when we've completed those, the authority members. So just a lot of information regarding the DDA. And so I just wanted to mention that to you. And then as far as, projects are concerned for like payment of anything that we may have going on. Obviously, the DDA board considers the projects and makes recommendation to the township board, who then reviews it and acts on the projects that the DDA wants to do. Once those projects are approved by the township board, obviously, the construction is complete. And those pay draws are submitted to the township, and we pay those and out of the DDA fund. They used to go to the township board for approval, but now they are not. Once the township board approves those projects, they've kind of given their blessing, if you will, on us spending those funds. And so when we get those pay draws in, we can just move forward and pay those. We don't have anything right now that we are paying on or working on. Probably the last few pay draws we've had were for the sidewalk project on Cascade Road from 28th Street to Cascade Hospital for animals. So that's really the latest and greatest project that the DDA has done. So
Does the state impose any requirements on DDAs as far as like spending minimums or requirements?
So they really don't like us to have a bank account, if you will. They don't like us to, unless we can show that we are saving up some money for a, large project that's going to cost, a lot of money. They really don't like us to sit on our funds.
We have funds in an account right now for the DDA.
We do have funds, yeah.
How much?
I know it's over $1 million that we're sitting on. So, and I think hopefully once the strategic plan is done, we can again start picking up some projects and moving forward and spending some of those funds. So,
And some of that will be drawn down by bus payments, yes? Or are you talking about the balance that we've assigned to capital projects?
it'll be drawn down a little bit by
Yeah.
bus payments as well, but yeah, the state really frowns on us, holding that
So
money.
They frown on it. What can they do?
Exactly, what's the?
Take it away.
Yeah.
They would take it away from us. They would allocate it back to the taxing authorities that we capture the funds from.
Oh,
Have they threatened Cascade with that at all, or any warnings?
Not at this time.
Have we ever gotten anything?
We have not.
So is the way to prevent that by earmarking it for something?
You can earmark it. It's got to be in your plan, and you have to show that you are, moving forward to spending that money. And so you could do that, certainly. We have in the past, we've paid cash for a lot of our projects. And so that, helps keep the account down there as well.
How much of a bond issue do we have? Outstanding balance on bonds?
We're paying on the Tuffy. I'd have to get a balance on that. I don't have
If
that was
if worst
800.
comes to worst, can we just pay off some of our debts
You
too?
could,
And should we?
you could. I'd have to talk
You'd
to
have to talk
our
to
bond
people.
attorney. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a financial
Come on,
person. I don't know.
Sandra.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not getting into
I'm not
that.
wading into those waters.
Yeah.
But we should know
We can check into that, certainly.
who at the township would be the person to ask about that stuff.
We'd probably have to consult the attorney, the bond attorney, or we worked with Dickinson Wright when we did that Tuffy project. So perhaps then, or we could talk to Ken and, see what he
Just
recommends
curious
as well.
Yeah, what it's based on, like certain projects make more sense. I just don't know anything about it, so.
Yeah, and and if we're saving our money for, if we want to see what comes out of the strategic plan and maybe we want to earmark some money toward, then maybe it doesn't make sense to, pay the bond off.
Just to have to get
That's
another
what we need
bond.
to know.
Right,
And
just to
if-
get another bond, right?
I'm
right.
not saying one way or the other. I'm just trying to flush it out and understand that.
Yeah.
Maybe this was eligible for a bond that made sense and other projects are not. I don't know. But the board
Yeah.
should know this.
We have no other bonds. We paid our old 28th Street bond off in 2020, so.
When is this strategic plan going to be done? The complete-
I don't think they know.
Yeah,
Okay. so it's a-
But in the
I see.
meantime, it will be, there will be opportunities like the DDA will have opportunities to meet with residents, the
Mhm.
board, businesses, that kind of stuff.
We're
So
gonna
it's
have
more of a
workshops
process.
that-
Okay.
And by the time the process is over, we should all be feeling like we had plenty of opportunities. to
You'll get
communicate and
invited
input.
to
Okay, good.
workshop.
Right.
Right, but I think the context of the question is, when will we know what the projects will be?
Right.
So that we can make a determination about where to allocate, whether to allocate the money and where, or whether it makes
That
sense
out.
to push it toward
It's not good.
bond
Right, we
repayment.
won't
And
know
the
it's before
strategic
spring.
plan will be done maybe around spring, but then out of that, we've got to
You have to make the
pull
decision.
out those very, the
Right.
tactics, right? So.
For the next meeting, Sandra, why don't you talk to Ben, Manager Swayze, and figure out who you need to consult with, or the attorney or what, just so that we know if it makes sense, if we're frowned on, if it's discouraged to have money in the bank, but what they recommend as far as we've got a bond and we've got $1 million,
sure.
what makes the most sense? And it's probably what we're doing. I just don't know any of the background.
That's right.
Where do we stand with possibly purchasing Verberg's? Is there still ongoing conversations?
We have not talked to him in probably about a year now, so no.
Did he change his mind? Or was he committed?
He really wants to, I guess he was interested, but he really wants to stay open. So he wants to find another site, if you will. And so I think until he can, nail something else down that works for him, I don't think he'd be interested, so.
Other questions, comments?
Does the DDA stop at the bridge? Is that?
Yes.
For the, yeah.
So
Yeah.
Verberg's is right on the edge.
right.
Verberg's is in the district, yeah. That's kind of our
That's the
gateway there,
last-
if you will, yeah.
What about the two behind Frosty Boy and the Gathering Place? What is it? It used to be Windsor Cottage.
Yeah, the
and
American
then that other-
Sampler,
Yeah, are those within the DDA?
they are, yeah.
So that's the edge on that way?
Yes, yeah.
So with $1 million in our current account, when is the next collection of money?
When do we capture again?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we haven't yet, it would be very soon. So we always
Excellent.
capture in the early in the year, and then with the tax capture again in
So twice a
September.
year we
Yeah,
capture.
Is it
Yeah.
the same as summer, winter taxes?
pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
So twice a year we get the big deposits in?
Twice a year, yeah, and I can't remember, but we capture, the county and KDL, maybe in February, and then some of the others, and then the county might be split up into 2 payments a year. I'd have to go back and look at the budget. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, it's twice a year. So,
Other questions? All right, I think we kind of got tangled a little bit between some of the different articles here. So why don't you pick up where you left off? If you feel that you've covered.
I think we're
Articles 3 and
good.
4.
Yep. Yeah, really Article 4, I think until the strategic plan is done, I think as far as future projects, certainly we can look into some of these, the planters and the pots and, some of these items, but I think for probably the big capital projects, infrastructure type projects, I think until the strategic plan is complete, we're just going to be on hold as far as those projects are concerned. So, yes.
Do you know, are we planning on hosting again the Christmas down at the museum?
The lighting ceremony. I don't know yet.
Stands.
I talked to Vic about that a couple weeks ago. And I just need to meet with the historical committee and see if that's something they are interested in doing it and comfortable doing it again this
Right.
year. So,
Tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, what was their role in it in the past, just from not knowing specifics?
It was kind of their event, if you will. So they would open the museum and people, Santa would come in on the fire truck and, they'd hang out down there. We had carolers down there, some donuts and cider and candy cane. So it was just a big tree. Yeah. So it just, it was their event, when we had the big pine tree down there at the museum gardens, that was always decorated. And now we do the artificial trees. So
Yeah, that's too bad. I kind of like the big real tree versus.
it
the
was,
little artificial
yeah,
tree.
it was dead, unfortunately. It needed to come down. So
Good to know, because otherwise I'd be like, why'd they take down a great Christmas tree and
Yeah.
put a fake one?
yeah,
So pretty.
it was not in good shape. So
We could always plant a new one.
Wouldn't be big when we planted it, but.
No,
yeah.
but neither is our little other tree.
20
Yeah,
years from now,
Right,
you can
yes,
really
it would.
enjoy it.
The one we use now isn't that big.
Talk with the museum.
Did the
about it.
DDA fund that, or was that the Historical Society funds for that
We paid
event?
part of
The
it.
event, yeah.
I don't know that we covered the entire.
Historical
cost.
does a lot of it, to be honest with you. The DDA purchased some trinkets to hand out to the kids. And then the DDA also purchased, some of the decorations as far as the trees, and there's some reindeer down there. And we wrapped the lights around the river birch trees, both at Tassel Park and the Museum Gardens Park.
Oh my God,
So
we're talking
that's-
about Christmas decorations.
I
It had to
know.
happen. We almost made it through a meeting
I-
without talking about Christmas decorations.
There was a while where it seemed like every meeting we were talking about those. So,
It really is a
Um,
year-round issue.
Strength, yes.
so yes, the DDA does some of that. So.
Other questions about future plans or projects? Or other things that we need to discuss for purposes of the informational meeting? All right,
I have nothing.
moving on to Article 5, acknowledge visitors and those wishing to speak. I see no one in the audience. Do we have anyone on Zoom?
There's no one in the virtual audience.
I feel sad. All right,
Lucky.
I know. All right, unless there are other questions or items to discuss, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this informational meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Gary.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Rick. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion adjourned. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much,
Good talk,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll have kind of a busy meeting next month. So let us know if you need our help in pulling this information that you're going to be gathering. We kind of gave you a bit of work to do.
It will be. The next meeting, just to let you all know really quick, it's October 19th.
Well, and I don't know that any of the issues are
So-
emergent. So if you need more time because you're not getting responses from people, then
We can throw it on
always
November
kick it to
and-
November. Yeah, better to have complete information than to try to force it early.
Okay.
I'm thinking. If somebody disagrees.